ChatGPT version 4.1 was just released to the API, and today I want to show you how we can integrate ChatGPT version 4.1 inside of our Xano account in just a few steps. So let's get right started with that. Now, the first step is we need to go to OpenAI and we need to create an OpenAI API key for our project. Now, we want to go to create new secret key, and I'm going to call this 4.1 Xano. And now I'm going to go create secret key, and now I got my secret key. You don't want to share that, so make sure to store that in a secret place, because you'll also not be able to, you won't be able to regenerate one again. So now that we have that, we want to go to their documentation. So I have their API reference inside of here, and you have cool things like streaming. You can call functions, right, like MCP, and you got image input, which is also very cool. But in this example, we're just going to do a normal chat completion. So now we want to copy this CURL. We want to make sure it is CURL. We're going to copy this. We could also toggle the model, but in this example, we want to take the new one. So we're going to copy that, and we're going to go to Xano. Now we want to create an API that is going to use this. For that, I'm going to create a new API in this example, and I'm going to create a new API group, ChatGPT, right? So I got kind of like them in a folder, because my folder structure, I got too many things in this YouTube database for videos. But let's go on custom endpoint. We want to do a post for this because it's creating new content. Let's call this 4.1, so GPT 4_1, and I can save this. And now we want to set up the API call. Now we can add a function, and I can do external API request. I can go to import curl, and I can paste the curl command from the documentation right inside of here. Now I can import the curl, and as you can see, it's importing this command right inside of here. And now it turns this authentication token into an expression, which is weird. So we want to change the type to make this text, and we ideally want to store our OpenAI API key as an environment variable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this placeholder. I'm going to have bearer, and I'm going to make sure there is a space after bearer. And I'm going to put in brackets, or you can just do this in caps, whatever you want. I can just do API key, for example. So it is important that I have text that won't be, randomly occurring anywhere else in the text, because we're going to add a replace filter for that. Now I can copy this. I can add a filter. I want to replace, and now I'm searching for this word, and I'm going to replace it with my API key. It's not fully secure yet because there's a step missing. But now I could put my API key inside of here. I could apply, and now I got my API key inside of here. Now here's the thing, if you're going to collaborate with your team, you probably don't want to have your API key in there. So what you can do is you could go to settings in Xano, and you could go to environment variables. This is where you can store all your API keys in a safe place. I can go on manage, and I can go and I can do ChatGPT. I can paste my secret inside of here, save it, and now I got that variable, that environment variable that is securely stored. And now I can go with the value that I want to replace it with. I can go on environment variable. I can look for ChatGPT, and now I got my API key in here, and it won't be exposed when people are looking at my API. Great if you're going to do screen sharing with your team or something like this. So now we get the basic response going on, and when we run this, ta-da, we're going to get a response. It will say, hello, how can I assist you today? Now, there are a few things we want to take a look at, because right now, we are exposing our API key right inside of here, because Xano always returns the header. And whoever has that API key will be able to access your account and spend your money on your credit card. So you will, please don't use mine. So you don't want to expose this when you respond to your front end. That's a common beginner mistake. The way we can do this actually is by using a variable. We can create a variable, and we can call this safe_request response, just like that. And I can go to API 1, I can click on 2 properties, and you see I got my properties here. I got request and I got response, right? So I can take a look at the properties. We got response, result, right? This is where, you know, the safe stuff is in. So I could go to response. Under response, I'm going to see result, and then under result, I'm interested particularly in content. I don't really care about the other one. So I got content here. So let's go inside of here, and we are going to go to choices, one property. I take the first choice, and then we see message. This is this one here. And then I got content, and I click on content. And actually, this will not be safe response. We'll just call this response. There you go. I can save this. And now when I respond with my API, I don't want to respond with API 1. I want to respond with the variable called response. So now when I run this inside of here, you see I'm only responding what the AI told me, which is useful for lots of applications. Now, right now there is no input into this API, right? So let's add an input here of text. Let's call this prompt. And we want to make that, keep editing. We want to make that required. So I'm going to add this input here. Let's say, what's 1 plus 1, right? And now if I run this with this prompt input, it's still not telling me what's 1 plus 1, because we need to get that value inside of here. Now, if we take a look at this object, we're going to see role developer, content, you are a helpful assistant, role user, content, and then we're going to do hello. So what we want to do, the role user, this will be what the user is saying. We want to go inside of here and take a look at the input, and we want to link this with the prompt. Now if we save this and run this again, you will see that Xano will tell me what 1 plus 1 is. Now if I'm going to tell it, write an essay, and I'm going to run this, as you can see, it's going to, tell me some things. And this AI model is, trained to ask follow-up questions. If you're using the AI as a tool on your backend for automation purposes, or you are building a Chat-GPT wrapper, you probably want to do things a little bit different. Because right here we have the role developer, and we can kind of like tell this what to do. Now, we already have the role developer because for1 is great at coding. So in this example, I'm going to build a little SVG generator. Let's say you are an SVG icon generator. The user will tell you about a description for a logo or icon, and I want you to create it in high quality SVG code using current color for the color and with 100% / height 100%, and make sure the SVG scales responsively. Only return the code, nothing else, no instructions. Okay, let's apply this. So now I can provide context here with the role developer, especially if I'm building a code tool. Let's save that and let's run this. And I have prompt write in this essay, and I can copy this SVG. Let's take a look at htmlonlineviewer.net. Let's paste this and take a look. It made an icon saying essay. Isn't that cool? And it does scale nicely. So there you go. There we have it. We're now having an icon generator. And of course, we can adjust this now to be 34 pixels. And you see it right here, right? So we got this very cool logo generator now that can generate vector logos. So there you go. Let's do a logo for Despia, a no-code mobile app builder. Let's run this. Let's see how it will generate my logo. I can copy this. Let's go on htmlonlineviewer.net. It's AI generated, right? But it does look nice. It's doing its best. You can see how it's doing its best. But it's fun, right? So I can kind of like go inside of here. I can go user. And now we're generating an SVG. And it's pretty fast. I mean, I can see this being smiley, but it also looks like a bowling ball. It's fun. It's a fun little tool. So now we kind of like use the new, API, as you can see here, to kind of like use it here. And we have role developer, and, we'll be able to, also parameters for audio output. We could also have it actually output audios, which is pretty cool. So you could do modalities audio voice. That's actually very cool. So we could just go audio and we could do modalities audio. So it would be an object. Let's try that actually. I mean, I don't know if it makes sense if it will read the SVG code to us, but it would definitely be interesting. So I could probably just go inside of here and set audio. I would need to add an object inside of here. In that object, I would do a set filter. And then inside of here, I would go to their documentation. That's my API key. I would take that parameter. So let's just modalities. Okay, let's go inside of here. Let's do path modalities. And then we're going to paste this inside of here. It will probably be an array. There you go. So now we're going to add the modalities of audio. Let's see. And then we also got to go inside of here. We need to do format. That is also required. So we could go inside of here. And we got to go inside of this audio object. And we got to go inside of here and add a set filter. And we got to set format, right? Then it will need to be MP3 as an example. MP3. And we can go inside of here and we can do MP3. And then we can go inside of here and we can do voice and we can do echo as an example. And I can then go back to the API and I can go back to this audio object here and I can add another set filter. And I can put this voice inside of here and I can do echo. I can apply. I can save this. And now if we run this, it will say, oh, we probably have a different kind of response. Let's go and stop and debug. Or we have an error. That could be as well. Let's try that one. So now we're actually doing audio modalities. Oh, I think maybe, let's take a look at their API reference. What's going on here? Let's do on learn more. Audio. Audio. Chat completions. Audio voice alloy. Modalities. Text. Audio. Oh, that's how you provide that. Okay. That makes sense. So we need to actually do that. We have an issue in the structure. We have this modalities. The modalities object will need to be outside of the audio object, so it will need to be in the payload. So we can add a set filter here of modalities, and then we can add an array inside of here, and we can add a filter, and we can add a push, so we can push an item here, and we do audio. We can apply this, so now we have that inside of here. Now we should be able to run this, and it will say only text and text audio are supported. So we need to also generate text with this, text and audio. So we need to add, we can just clone the push. And the nice thing about APIs, it tells us what we're doing wrong. So let's add text to this. Let's apply. Let's run this. And now the selected model does not support audio modality. Oh, it seems like the model actually that we're using does not support it. So let's take a look at their documentation. Which one does support it? We can do Chat-GPT 4.0 audio preview. Now we're not using 4.1, but I think audio is still cool. So let's try adjusting the modal here. We're really playing today with some experimental features here, or not really experimental, but never seen before features. It's always exciting. So now we're going to get an audio file back, and the fact that it takes a little bit to load, and we're probably getting a timeout right now, yes, shows us that it's working, but we're getting a timeout because here's the thing. Xano down here has a timeout. We can extend it up to 27 seconds because if you are connecting to the front end, that would be your timeout period, because there is a timeout, especially when things take longer to generate. But now it should probably take like 20 seconds, or yeah, there you go. So now, as you can see, we're getting the transcript, and we're getting the binary data, the base 64 of the audio file. And that is actually quite cool, because we got this base 64 here, which is an audio, and I probably want to change the model here. How is this working? Because that prompt doesn't help us. Let's say you are a story generator. Create child-friendly stories. Create child-friendly stories and only return the story itself. Let's apply that. Let's run this. And let's go inside of here and let's do Tim and his dog. Ah, no, I couldn't think of something better. Let's generate that. And now it's generating it. And now we're actually running that API call with OpenAI. And it will now generate a captivating story with the audio preview model. So it can generate audio with an AI response. So right now it does the AI response and the audio at the same time, which is pretty neat. We may, for such a long story here, we may get a timeout. Oh no, actually it did work. And we got that audio. So we got that story, but here's what's going on. We got the story and we got the audio. Now, how do we play that thing? And how do we save this? So there are a few ways how we can do this. We could either take this, because it's base 64, and play that on our front end, which will probably crash if we're using Toddle or WeWeb. Any visual front end tool, when we're working with millions of lines, they don't tend to like those things too necessarily. So the easiest way to transform that is by just getting it as a link. Now, how do we do this? For this, we got the response here, and we can change the response format, right? So we can go to API 1 and we can go to properties, we can go to response, we can go to result, we can go to choices, we can take the first one, we can go to message, and we can go to audio, and we can go to data. That will give us the audio metadata. That is this one, that big thing, right? So now we got this here, and let's add a stop and debug for debugging purposes. And now we can go inside of here, return the response, and we're now going to get something that's called base 64. And it will load a little bit. It can take up to 20 seconds, so please bear with me while we're waiting for the AI to do all its magic. There you go, it'll take a little bit. In the meantime, feel free to give this video a like and a thumbs up and share it with a friend or whatever. Oh, it's taking a little bit. There you go. Oh, we hit the timeout. We may want to extend our timeout if we're working with a front end. At this point, probably we want to start working with WebSockets, which Xano supports for real-time communication. That way you can avoid some of those timeouts that you're getting when you're working with AI models. But we'll be talking about all of that in this YouTube channel as well, and we already have some videos on that, but we'll be making more videos about those things. Now, let's wait a little bit about this, and again, in the meantime, feel free to like this video, comment down below, tell me what you're building in Xano. But yeah, we'll wait a little bit, and I think it's doing a great story because it's loading long. Either that, or I'm reaching my memory resources on Xano. But now, as you can see, we're getting the story, a few million lines of base 64. Now, what is this? How can this be an audio? Like, you know, it's just text. How can this text contain a voice, and a specific voice? How? It's base 64. This is files or binary data, and they can be encoded in base 64. It's a specific encoding. So when I go to base 64 to audio, there are lots of those sketchy sites. They got advertisements everywhere right here. Take a look at that. What's that? 2-pack camera lens protector on Amazon. That doesn't look sketchy at all. I will definitely click on there and log in with my Amazon account. But you know, if I now paste that base 64 inside of here, it's a few million lines, decode base 64 to audio, it's now going to load.
Once upon a time, in a small village surrounded by lush green hills, lived a young boy.
And it turns it into an audio. So now we know how to do that. The question is, how do we do this in Xano? So the first thing to get that, we're getting this, and actually what I'm about to do is I'm going to copy this. I'm going to do a little hack, because I don't want to run this all the time while being in development because it costs money. So let's hide those. Let's create a variable called response, and I'm just going to paste this right inside of here and save it. There you go. And let's reload the page. This is probably the moment when Xano starts becoming a little bit slow because it has to load those things. I prefer that to do this with a 1 minute audio, 1 second audio. But what we want to do is we want to go in here and create a variable for this. Let's call that binary. And I'm going to take the response and I'm going to add a filter of base 64 decode. So now this is going to decode that audio so we get it in the raw binary data. So I'm going to now take the binary, I'm going to save, and let's run this here. This should be pretty quick because we're skipping the API call. We're just doing the binary computational stuff. And again, we're doing lots of computational things, so it can take a little bit because I'm probably reaching the limits of what my computer can handle with a few million lines of code. But as you can see inside of here, now I'm getting all those random characters. That is binary data. And now, since we have it in binary data, you can go to create file resource. And now we can take this file name. Let's do test, or let's do chatgpt.mp3. Oh, let's just do chatgpt _ audio. There you go. And then we'll take the file data that will need to be the binary data, right? We can save this. Now we got file 1. That is a file resource. We'll take the file resource. We'll save this. We'll run this again. And now it's going to generate that. Again, it can take a little bit in the debugger. It will be faster in production. It's just Xano has memory ceilings, and I'm probably frying my computer. But now what we do have inside of here, we have this, this web token. I can also go to jwt.io to kind of like take a look how this token looks. And I can go inside of here, paste that token. I can accept all. And as you can see, then inside of here, if I paste this, I will see that there is some signing to it. So as you can see, there is some binary data here that can be decrypted and all that kind of stuff. But what's going on is, so there's some data in this. And with this data that Xano put together to create a file resource, we can now create an audio metadata file. And now we need to take the value of the file resource, file 1, and now we're going to create this attachment metadata. So now we can return x1, which will give us the attachment metadata, and that's the final step, or the second final step, in getting a link that actually can be sent to the user and played, and we can host that on Xano. So now with this attachment metadata, this is what you want to store in the database. This is what you want to store in the database, right? Because the cool thing about Xano is actually the editor is hosted on your server. So if I were to just add this path to my main Xano server URL and enter, you're going to see
in a small
that the audio is now stored on my Xano server, which is pretty cool. So now I just want to do like a little variable manipulation to get the path, right? And to just append this to my URL. So first I want to copy my Xano server URL, and I'm going to create a variable inside of here. And I am going to call this link. I'm going to put my URL inside of here without the slash. I'm going to add a concatenate, and then I'm going to take x1, and I can go on x1 properties, and I want to take the path, right? That's where it's hosted. We'll save this. Now I can delete the stop and debug because we're done with it. And now I can go inside of here, and I just want to return the link. I'm going to save that. We can delete this test variable and probably completely delete it because it's going to slow it down because we got millions of lines of, you know, random gibberish in here. But now when I reload this and I can now generate the story, it is going to generate the story, and we will receive an audio link with our new generated story. And while it's doing that, I'm going to publish this, and then we'll just wait what Xano will be responding with. And we'll wait a little bit. So this is kind of like how we can work with the OpenAI API. And there you go. Now we got a link. I can copy that link. I can paste it in here. Let's listen to it.
Once upon a time, in a small village surrounded by rolling hills.
And we got the story. And we got it on Xano, and we got it hosted. And that is how we can work with OpenAI's API. Very simple inside of Xano, and kind of like, you know, how we can reference the documentation, translate that to things that work with Xano, right? And then, you know, we can kind of like, you know, work with those things. It's very interesting. Curl commands are very exciting to work with. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate that. And if you want to learn a little bit more about Xano, or you're stuck at something, you may want to take a look at nocodeprocode.com. We got daily office hours to help you make progress faster and to solve your hardest problems inside of Xano. I would love to see you inside of there. But thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you so much for your support, and we'll keep all the exciting Xano videos coming on this YouTube channel. Take care.